Next we have our split element tool. So with this wall, if I wanted to split it up into specific segments, I'd use my split element tool. So I'll select split element, and then you'll notice my cursor is now a little split element tool, and then I can simply click on the wall to split it up into specific elements. I could then select it and delete. There is a quicker way of doing this, of course, so I'll just undo what I've done. When I select my split element tool, in the options bar, if I tick on delete inner segment, now when I place my segments, the inner section deletes. Beside that, we have split with gap, where we then in the options bar specify a gap. So if I enter in 100 millimeters for an example, every time I click, it will automatically generate a 100 millimeter gap between those elements. Next we have little pins. So if I'm happy with the position of my walls and I didn't want them to move, because it's quite easy to accidentally click and drag an element away. So what we can do is we can pin them in place so they can't be moved. So a quick way to pin everything is to use my object selection and then selecting the pin tool. And you'll notice each segment now has its own little pin. So when I click and try to drag, I can't. To unpin, it's quite simply clicking on that little pin. Then I can adjust and then I can repin. So I'm going to unpin what I've drawn to move on. And next we'll look at the delete tool. So it's a little red X. So this will remove any little element that we don't want in the project. So I'll select my tool, selecting the element and pressing enter. We also have the option of selecting the delete key on the keyboard. So again, we can just highlight, selecting the delete key on the keyboard. Next, we're going to look at the array tool. So I'm going to come up, I'm going to drag one of the desks away. So I'm going to select the desk, select the array tool. First, we select the type of array, whether it be a linear array or a radial array. Do we want them to remain grouped and associated with each other? How many do we want to be involved in that array? Next is how we start the array. Whether we start by placing the second component or the last component. And once we place the second component, then the array will continue on after that. If we place the last component, everything will be arrayed inset to that. Again, we can constrain them if we need to be. So I'll do a quick example here. If I up the array to 10, first I'm going to use the move to second. So with this, I just click and move my desk into the second position that I want my desks to be. And then after that, you'll see it will array to a total of 10. I have the final option of increasing or decreasing that here. So again, I'll use the array tool. I'll array it up to 12, but this time I'll place the last desk. So when I select the last desk, I'll now click the desk, move it into the position being its last position, and then everything will array inset to that. So next, for the scale, what I'm going to do is just quickly draw a wall. And we have two different types of scale. So when I select my element, selecting scale, we have graphical and numerical. So first what I'm going to show you is the graphical scale. I'm going to first select each three of the walls. I do this by clicking on one wall, holding down Control and selecting all three. Then I'll select scale, remain graphical, So the graphical scaling requires 3 clicks. The first click determines the origin, and the next 2 clicks define the scale vectors. So I want to increase the size of this opening in the wall. So I'm going to first click here, determines my origin. Next I'll click again, and you'll notice that the wall will start to expand out. So given that final third click, which is my finish point, we'll notice that the wall has increased in opening size. So next is the scale factor by numerical. Again, I'll select the wall I want to scale, selecting the scale tool, toggle over to numerical. So to scale numerically, first you've got to enter in your scale. So we'll leave it at 2. And then we got to specify the origin of the scale. So the start point. So if I use this as my start point, I'll click, and my wall has increased in distance by a scale factor of 2. So I wanted to double this again. Again, I can click on scale, numerical, scale factor 2, and my origin. And again, it's increased in length by 2. So that's it for the modify panel. We will be incorporating these tools throughout the project. So if you're unsure of any of the tools, not to worry, because I will be going back over them again and again as we start to develop our project.